All right, we're going to do another example with interpreting confidence intervals. So we've got a sample of 12th grade females. They were surveyed about how often they use their seatbelt. They created a 95% confidence interval. 95% is the most common that we see. However, there are other ones as well. We've just been kind of sticking with 95 for now. So 95% confident interval for the proportion to percentage of all 12th grade females who always wear their seatbelt. And it was computed to be, and again, these could be seen as percentages between 61.2% and 66.8%. So what does this represent? I need to write my summary statement. So we are, and then we state our confidence level, 95% confident at the, now we're talking about proportions here, so I need to use the word proportion, of all 12th grade females who wear their seatbelt. And it is between, and then we state our interval numbers. Again, you could state those as percentages as well if you wanted to. It would be, the same thing. So that's our statement there. And then I've got some questions here to kind of follow up and to interpret with this. But before I do that, I want to make my graph as well so that I can kind of get an idea of what's going on here and see it in a visual way too. So I do want to make note of what numbers are being asked in my question so I can make sure that I include them in my interval. So my interval again is between 61.2 and 66.8%. I've got a question related to 65%, but I need to think, is this the first question, is there evidence that the majority of all 12th grade females always wear their seatbelt? So what would be the majority of 12th grade females? So that would actually be more than half, or more than 50%. So this 50% is coming into play here as well. And so I actually want to make sure I include 50% in my graph too. So maybe because 50% seems a lot lower than the other numbers, maybe I'll start with 50% there. And then let's see, we'll say this is 55, 60, 65, 70, and we can fit 75 in there. All right, so I'm going to graph my interval first. So this is 61.2%, and we could have written that as a percentage too, 61.2% and 66.8%. And so I'm going to graph that first. And so there's a graph of my confidence interval. So for my first question here, is there evidence that the majority of the 12th grade females wear their seatbelt? Well, that's going to be 50% or more. And so is there evidence of that? Absolutely. So those percentages of students who say they wear their seatbelt, is definitely higher than the 50%. And, we can see that our prediction for all the students is higher than 50%. When we look at it for the 65% though, the 65% falls in between our interval. And so with this one, we have to be careful because there's a chance that the average is not above 65%. It could be above 65, but there's a chance that it's not. So is there evidence that more than 65% always wear their seatbelt? No. So this one is going to definitely be a no. It could be, but there's just, it's too much of a chance that it's not. And so we can't say that, yes, there's evidence to support that statement because there's actually evidence to disprove that statement as well. So you've got to be really careful with these types of questions. And that's why I really like the graph. It really helps to give a visual too of what's happening in these situations.